These last few Sundays, we have been hearing from the 6th chapter of St. John's Gospel. It is known as the Bread of Life Discourse. Jesus foreshadows the sacrament of Holy Communion, our communion with Him, body, blood, soul, and divinity, when we receive Him in the Eucharist at Mass. Jesus said, "I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink His blood, you do not have life within you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him on the last day. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me and I in him." Remember the context here. Jesus is speaking to first century Jews. His words and teachings were shocking to them. They were problematic because Jews knew their scriptures, prohibited them from consuming animals' flesh mixed with blood. How much more now a person telling them to eat his flesh and drink his blood? When his followers protest, Jesus had every opportunity to change his language. He could have said, "Well, I'm just speaking metaphorically, symbolically. Please come back." Rather, Jesus intensifies his speech. He repeats himself 7 times, each time more emphatic than the last. He uses the word trogein, which connotes an animal gnawing on the flesh of an animal. Jesus doubles down. When Jesus did this, many of his followers left Jesus and returned to their former way of life. This gospel calls us to renew our faith in the Holy Eucharist, especially the Catholic teaching of the real presence of Christ in Holy Communion. At Mass, we don't kneel down before bread. I didn't give up having a wife and kids of my own so I can give bread at church. But we are called to believe that Jesus said what he meant and he meant what he said. It is his body and blood, his real presence for our life. Each time I receive communion, let me tell Jesus that I love him. Let me tell Jesus I'm sorry for my sins. If I have a serious sin, let me go to confession first. And having received him, let me go out and allow him to change my world, beginning with my own heart first. This gospel also reminds us of the challenges that we expect to encounter. When the multitudes left, Jesus said to the 12, "Do you also want to leave?" Simon Peter answered, "Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." At times, the Lord challenges us with many difficulties, whether it is our commitment to marriage, to priesthood, religious life, being single, a student, in our prayer, our commitments to our parish or to the Catholic Church, or just trying to live by our principles. We do not judge our commitment to Christ by our response to him in the good times, but in the tough times. We prepare for these tests of faith by our day-to-day prayer relationship with Jesus and the Church, and by our commitment to him in both good times and in bad. Jesus, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and are convinced that you are the Holy One of God.